I always liked cyberpunk because Neuromancer, Ghost in the Shell, stuff like that. The idea of being able to start installing parts into someone, it was, standard cool idea.
Mhm.
But then it started developing because I'm like, it's not hitting the right marks. And I started thinking to myself, wouldn't it be nice if we could just cut bits of Cthulhu and jam it into us?
This is the Crit RPG Podcast, your one-stop shop for everything Lit RPG, progression fantasy, and Royal Road.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Crit RPG Podcast, the only podcast where, well, you can see what's happening on the screen. So I really don't, I don't know what's happening. So thank you very much for coming in. With me today is Ostensible Mammal, author of GodClads. How are you doing?
I'm alive. That is all I can ask for.
Very much so. We're going to talk about Death March a little bit more so that people who are listening to you for the first time or who haven't interacted with you on Discord know what this is about.
Very nice.
So, talk to me about GodClads.
Well,
why did you write the story? When did you write the story? And how did it come to be?
Why did I write the story? Well, it's a three-part mixture. Number one, I was trying to prepare for another story I'd like to personally refer to as Fascist Dragon Cannot Solve Problem with Magic. The second part is that COVID was, it was a dark time. My room was all I knew for a long while, and I was starting to hallucinate looking at the corners. And the corners told me that there was only one way out. But I knew the corners were lying, you see, because, corners don't have mouths. Like, what are you listening? What are you doing talking to a corner? So clearly, like, naturally, by that logic, you're being lied to. You can't just, you got to do something, okay? The way you talking to your corners, the room eventually gets you to, you're wearing a dress, but it's not a dress. It's your neighbor's slave bit. It's a whole mess. Anyway, there's supposed to be a third bit here, but that's mainly because, I started to writing and creating. It's pretty fun. It's as close to divine as we can get.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I mean, this entire show won't be an acid trip. I mean, what are you talking about? So you said that the corners convinced you to do something, and in spite of them, you started writing to get a feeling of humanity.
Yeah, sure. Humanity. That's the right one.
Sure, yes. Did you write any books before?
No, I have abandoned several stories before. I've attempted, yeah. If you dig far enough in my past, you will find horrific fan fiction that I've buried, and some I have not buried very well, and all of them are dead.
And some of them are coming back to life.
Potentially, but let's not do any necromancy yet. There are some things that should remain buried. And by that, I don't mean the Necronomicon. I mean my words.
So what kind of fan fiction?
Let's see here. Mostly crack.
Crack.
Yes. Imagine the stupidest concept you can, and then make it dumber.
Yes.
Well, that's about it.
So you decided, hey, I'm going to start writing again. It's COVID. I have nothing to do. So soldiering on, I'm just going to write something. So how did you come up with the concept of GodClads?
So that's a lot of things. In the beginning, I always liked cyberpunk because Neuromancer, Ghost in the Shell, stuff like that. And the idea of being able to, start installing parts into someone, it was, standard cool idea. Mm-hmm. But then it started developing because I'm like, it's not hitting the right marks. When I was writing it, there was always a question of, well, why is it like this? Where can I get a better fix of this novel I'm writing? Mm-hmm. So originally there was some previous concepts that didn't make it because it was like, okay, this is just Shadowrun, or this is this is Cyberpunk. It's like, we don't need to do a new version of this. It's been done better and it's done once. So we kept going, and I started looking into some very, let's just say, esoteric literature. And I started thinking to myself, wouldn't it be nice if we could just, cut bits of Cthulhu and jam it into us. I'm just saying, like, it's useful for living underwater and stuff. I'm like, but what if, what if the water wasn't there? And so the idea started developing from that. It's like, the cybernetic implanting is a two-way sword, basically. It's how you interface with the world, but it's also how you interface with yourself. So why don't we just cut out all the middlemen and, directly jam aspects of broken reality in people? Why not?
Yeah, why not?
It seemed like the Five's conclusion.
Yes, the obvious conclusion, because that's why the market is swamped with stories about people who augment themselves with broken pieces of reality.
Oh, yeah. Let me think here. China Mayville has the Baslog cycle, which is, the new weird is pretty cool. And he also has concepts like the possible sword. It cuts, I think, theoretically everywhere it's not at or something like that. So, yeah, like, it's not, I would say, super rare, but it's a little bit more esoteric than normal.
It's true. The whole new weird thing is a genre I very much enjoy, because most of the time it's not very shock horror, but it kind of makes you think more and about the implications, and it twists your mind into pretzels. I like that a lot.
Remember to protect your ears from wandering spider people.
Yes, that is very important. How does it relate to the question?
I forgot. I do not remember. Let's continue.
Maybe too many spider people in your brain. So the other thing was, I think I recommended Max Gladstone to you, right?
Yes. The craft sequence. He also had, like, what do you call it? How you lose the time war.
I
think that's
exactly. That was really fun. And he writes very interesting, sort of like body horror stuff. But he also he has this thing, much like Rothfuss, I think, where his plot gets a little bit lost under all the prose, if you know what I mean.
Oh yes. I think a lot of authors who go into the really weird stuff, they suffer from a little bit of description inconsistency.
Okay. How so?
Well, when you're talking about something ineffable, it is usually hard to portray. So a lot of times they're trying to sell you on a feeling, and not all of us are Lovecrafts, either in terms of racism powers or our actual writing.
Yeah. I mean, do we even want to be Lovecraft? But
there's
China.
Yeah, like, not really. No, like, that man suffered. If racism was a cultivation source, he would be, like, breaking planets. But unfortunately, he was just a sad, terrified man who was pretty good at writing sometimes, but also really racist.
Really racist. Which is the part that people like not to talk about sometimes. But he has inspired some very interesting newer writers, and that's called New Weird. And give me 1 second. I need to look it up at Ionine. Jelly Clark, who is a black writer who wrote a lot of who wrote back at the concept of old gods and all that kind of stuff from Lovecraft. It's really, really interesting stuff.
I might look into that.
I also tossed you over Peter Jackson Bennett, right?
Yes, the City of Stairs. Yeah.
Did you read that?
I read parts of that. I did not finish that. I'm currently on something else. I'll probably go back to that maybe I don't know, June this year. Well, upcoming year anyway.
Yeah, that's okay. No, I mean, whenever I recommend something, I just hope people like it, and if you don't, that's also fine, right?
Yeah, I think that will probably go with more New Weird month maybe next time, but we'll see.
Yeah. No, yeah, it makes complete sense, right? One of the best and coolest New Weird stories I've ever read, or experienced, I should rather say, is The Secret World. It's a Funcom game. It's a terrible game. It's an amazing story. Really, really good.
I remember that. There were 3 different secret societies you could play living there. Yes, I was aware of that game.
That was really good. because the way you experienced it was each quest gave you a lot of information, some of which was completely useful, some was useful in a local context, and some of it was useful in a global context. Just a line here or a few phrases there or a premonition. And it all would fit together into this like gigantic big puzzle about what was really happening underneath our very feet, and how that would culminate in the destruction of the world. Really good, like really, really good. And it went back through time and went forward in time, and I can only recommend the story. The game, like I said, not so much, but the story is pretty cool.
Yeah, like that sounds like a World of Darkness sort of thing.
I haven't read too much of World of Darkness, but do you play games, either video games or?
Yes, I do.
Elaborate, please.
So I've played. I think I've played quite a few different games. I'm pretty broad in terms of what I've played before, but as time gone on, I've basically gone into either high, very interactive sandboxes or high narrative.
Mm-hmm.
That's my main two things. I kind of like either really interesting story or something that wants you to commit to, or something that's very good for kind of power and progression, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Or just stuff like RimWorld, in which war criming is not a what is war crime really?
What is war?
Yeah,
really.
Philosophically, why do these orphans need their legs?
Exactly. And then in the grim dark future of the 42nd millennium, there's only war. I mean, what's your entire opinion about? No, I'm not going to ask about Warhammer. No, that's
my opinion is that they need to reduce the prices of those figurines. All right, there are people out there who have they have enough money, but it's like it's a drug habit or Warhammer figurines, and they can't afford the figurines. You're forcing people into having a drug habit, Games Workshop. How many people have turned to heroin because you couldn't, like the Iron Man model is like a few $100s. What is wrong with you? Like, people are turning to bath salts because they can't afford a full Thousand Suns set.
The choice obviously is between to buy a heroin or to buy heroin, and you made them choose.
Yes. Also, update your damn elves. Every year it's new Space Marines. Come on.
All right, you paint, right?
No, I do not paint. I stare at the figurines.
What a wonderful hobby. Do you at least glue them together?
Oh, well, I mean, there's one that has tape. You see, look, it's very simple, right? I'm kind of, in some ways, I like to think of myself as a Scrooge type character. It's not about creating the thing; it's about having it, because someone else doesn't. That's how value works.
Do you want to talk about the concept of art in the age of its mechanical reproduction?
Yes, the concept of art. Well, cynically, art is something I use to bludgeon people and make them feel bad.
Yes.
Functionally, art. Yeah. You can keep going. I don't want to interrupt this. Elaborate. What are you saying?
Oh no, I just wanted to give you another segue to move on. I wanted to say that you seem like the kind of person to whom writing is just a vehicle to telepathically hurt people.
Kind of, but that's also art.
Exactly. So you were saying art and bludgeoning people.
Yes, but it's also expression. It's like something that you cannot find or you cannot find replicated somewhere. It expresses something that you cannot fully capture. It is the reason why I'd say, I don't know, Freddy Got Fingered is art. It's not good, but it's art. You'll never find it again.
Mm-hmm.
It's strange. The Godfather or Farewell My Concubine. That's art. It's a capture. It's a kind of a condensation of a time or a series of narratives that you cannot probably easily capture again. You can't fully channel it once more.
That's true. And there's a physicality to it,
Yes.
which you can use to bludgeon people. Awesome.
Yeah.
No, because like sometimes when I'm really bored, I think about stuff like this, right? So are digital books even still art? Or what does this all mean with the rise of AI and stuff like that? But I think ironically, books and writing is one of the few art forms that retain their aura, even if they can be mechanically reproduced, because writing as an art form only became possible with its mechanical reproduction, aka the Gutenberg printing press, right?
Yes.
So very interesting stuff. But I wonder if that will save us when AI will come and turn every computer into an infinite narrative machine. So we'll see.
So yeah, I have doubts about that. By the time the AI is capable of executing the executive level decisions that make a really cool story and blow like most authors out of the water, I'm not worried about it doing AI. I'm worried about it doing propaganda. I'm going to be honest. We are the weakest of the entertainments. Like it's not even close. Writing is cool. Like writing on Roy Wood. Some people make a living here. Some people create really fun stories. But let's be perfectly honest, right? You can make and probably succeed and get more as like a middleweight rage porn baiter than a writer ever could. And if you can have an AI start generating that, that's much easier than writing. Like why, like if this is just purely economic, what are you doing here? This is not the industry of big money.
That's true.
But also it's like I've seen some of the things people spam post. Even if it's technically perfect, it's not. When people say soulless and bland, they don't mean, this needs like a magical spiritual human touch. It's a lot of times it's like someone clearly, like literally ripped a pattern that has been seen before and then jammed it here. So you're bored because you've seen it before, literally.
Yeah, it's the same thing of how every Marvel movie will. Oh my god, how every Marvel movie will end, right?
Yeah, but it's even worse than that. It's like, it's like, have you seen like a bunch of 80 action movies in a series?
The blaxploitation ones or the ones after?
No, the blaxploitation one usually have too much personality. I'm talking about the deader ones.
Oh, the one where like everyone always killed the cop's partner.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I know what you mean.
Now, like, there's a difference there. You got to spin, like, there's a wheel. It's got 3 sides. One's black, one's Asian, one's Hispanic.
Oh no, do I want to know what this wheel does?
Well, yeah, usually it's this, right? By the late period, black partner survives. He gets shot in the shoulder. So, the white guy has to fight like his ninja half-brother from Japan. Because the Japanese people, like, as per Hollywood's forbidden rules, and every year they sacrifice people to make sure this is enshrined in blood. A Japanese person must never beat a white person in sword dueling in the 80s. That was this is written into law. You can find this if you drill to the bottom of Sunset Boulevard. There's a plaque there, and it's written in fake kanji, carved by the ancient cultists of the Hollywood division.
Oh my god. Now I want to write like this really intricate story about street magic being used in Hollywood and cellophane touched like arcane sigils. Yeah, man, Mammal, that sounds awesome. We should do that. No, but like one thing I always wondered a bit about, especially in like the we were talking about Bond earlier, how Hollywood has always kind of encapsulated the zeitgeist when it comes to enemies and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
So first it was the Germans, well, obviously. Then it was the Russians, and then at some point it was the Chinese, and then it went.
Yeah, the Chinese. I got a funny thing about the Germans and Russians. You see, once upon a time, I thought they were the same people. It's just like a Russian was a German you left too long in the cold. So when I was growing up,
Tell
right,
that.
I had a series of movies. Like they're mostly propaganda, and my
Mhm.
understanding of the world was shaped by them. But you see, the television station I watched stuff on was Phoenix Television. That was a Hong Kong owned broadcasting thing, and most of
Mhm.
them were subtitled. And so my understanding was like there were several different variations of the Caucasian. They were people of several multi classes
Mhm.
and separate designs. Now, if they were a Southerner and they weren't fat, they were probably good. If they were Northerner but they were poor, they were probably also good. Well, but potentially good. But if they were British, they were evil, unless there was a German, in which case the German was evil.
Like a flow chart.
Yes, but then there's also the see. I was really confused when like the Russian and German came in at the same time. Like this is the first time I watched a World War II movie, and it was like, wait a minute, aren't these two the same guy? What's going on here? Why are they fighting each other? And
What's up here?
yeah, and anyway, they explained to me, no, this actually happened. I'm like, are you sure? Because like it found the thing, and that was the moment I realized that potentially there might just have possibly been some ingrained racism.
This is amazing because this is a perspective we in Europe and I think even the US never get. Like never. I appreciate it very much. I appreciate you very much for sharing this because it makes quite obviously like a lot of sense, right? I mean, I'm not gonna start talking about like Japan, but
Yes, but it's not.
let's
There was
not.
great many risks.
Yes, very much. But yeah, so the whole zeitgeist and enemy kind of thing in Hollywood was very interesting to me because you could kind of like see what the nation was afraid of at the time in both like racist and slash uh, well globally political problems. Like, oh, Cold War's over, great, but what if it comes back?
Yes,
Right?
but
Or what if, and I'm saying this now, like what if the Chinese get like too evil or too big or no? Um, and then we had a time where it was like international crime, and I had a hard time figuring out what international crime was, what
yes.
it stood in for. When I
Uh,
wrote the hmm?
International crime has a lot of implications depending on where you are.
Shoot.
Yeah. So usually, if it's international crime,
Mm.
right now, previously the easy pickings for I think there's a wolf like a movie called Wolf Warrior and Wolf Warrior Two. It's basically Chinese Rambo, right?
That sounds amazing.
And both of them have a kind of they have a non-committal anti-American villain. So he pops out. He's like, okay, here's an American bad guy. No, I'm a mercenary, not affiliated with the U.S. Army in any way. I'm like, okay, I see where this is going. We're not doing that, are we? We
Oh
gotta.
my god.
We're not going all the way over.
Okay.
But it's the same thing. It's like in the U.S., it's like like for a while, it's like, oh yeah, here's a rich bank guy. And he's like, your first scene of the guy is like he's generic, he's old, he's hacking the head up a child, he's dipping money inside, he's injecting the money into his blood, and then he's turning young again. It's like my plan for the future is I'm gonna monetize the CO2, and I'm gonna blow up the kids if they don't let me do it. And it's like it doesn't make any sense, but he's easy to hate, so you don't care.
Mm. Was that the movie or was it the Elon Musk biopic?
I
I'm
don't
very
know.
sorry.
Like I'm not sure. All right, like does he have a biopic?
No, I'm not even like hating on the guy. Like I said, I pity him very much because he has like no one around him to tell him no. So he just does whatever. Like I really do have pity for the guy. It was just like very easy to jump onto the bandwagon there for a second. So no, he doesn't have a
Well,
biopic. But yeah, you were saying Wolf Warrior.
yes, but yeah. Anyway, like that has a huge assortment, and I found funny is like they basically fought every like that. They fought the American assortment as well. The Americans, they fight the Russians. They fought the Germans. They fought the well, okay, they were laughing like the mysterious Middle Eastern villain who wants to blow up some like landmark or something. And then there's also like no, I don't know, like there's a distinct lack of like there's not so many Asian like villains in that regard. Japan was only, I don't know, like they were only mentioned for a while during the 80s, and that's because their economics were doing good. And all of a sudden, like it's like, what's that? Why are they getting rich too? It's a standard feeling of like, oh God, they can afford cars too. Oh no, they're going to be driving next to me. What are we going to do? Shoot the wheels out.
They made good cars too.
Yeah, like that's too much. All right, there comes the point where it's like, look, we all understand this. We can all succeed together, but you better stay far away from me when you're succeeding.
Yeah, we can all exactly. We can all succeed together if you help me succeed first.
Like, look, I will pull you up, but you got to help me build this tower first, okay?
I mean, like, to be real, there is no single nation on the world that doesn't want to try and get ahead of everyone else.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not going to pretend that like the German Zeitwende, the new political thing is going to be anything different. But yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about politics here because it's neither here nor there. It's about books.
The international nation and relations are built upon a foundation of anarchy.
Yeah. Right?
Yes.
That's really interesting. It's all very egalitarian in a way. But so to put a line underneath this, the international criminal was basically terrorism. Right? It was a stand-up for terrorism. Super interesting. Because like it was always about like blowing something up and making a statement out of it. Super interesting. Any hoozle. I want to, because I can already see people underneath this video going to be like, we're going to talk about books again. They're talking about movies and like colonialism. And like, What's the best advice you've ever gotten as a writer?
It's the Ira Glass advice. So the Ira Glass advice, I believe, if you can find it or look it up, then the person themselves said it better than I ever can. It's effectively this, right? There's a period which you should expect no pleasure or joy from what you're doing. It's the suck period. You are effectively the journeyman. You know enough that it's not very good. But you know what good is, and you're trying to find, you're trying to feel towards it. You can't fully put into words yet. And I think that's probably the most important part. It's like part of writing and part of doing anything well is priming yourself. It's about, preparing mentally what you're about to do. What destroys some people is that there's no hope, and so they run into too many problems and they give up. And for some other people, there's too much hope and their ego is like a balloon and they hit too many problems and it pops and it destroys them. And so the practice, which is why all advice, fundamentally, I think, despite this being really good advice, all advice is useless until you are like actively like kind of reinforcing yourself in motion, is that you kind of want to like really mind the middle ground of where you're going. You want to be excited about what you're doing. You want to, at least not hate what you're doing, but you can't kind of like take it too personally when things go wrong.
It's a variation of, enjoying the journey instead of the goal.
Yes, but also it's like, I think even more than the journey, it's the process of doing. It's, I think Marcus Aurelius might have something to say about that. It's basically that think of the action and generally like the practice of becoming, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, like long-term fans of this podcast will know that I have been trying to be one of the non-pretentious Stoics for a while because it really helped me. Go listen to the Void Herald episode, everyone. But yeah, right. So this is becoming enamored with the process and enjoying it, even if things aren't going really well, is super important. Yeah. Because as you said, like you will suck. It's inevitable. Enjoying the suck is the cool part.
Well, you don't even need to enjoy the suck. You just need to accept it. What destroys people is they cling to it. It's like, oh no, I am a terrible writer. Even now, I'm like, no, I'm not a good writer. I'm not a terrible writer. I write. And at any given moment, this could be much better, in which I develop my skills, or I have a sudden burst of like inspiration, and I become like, much more productive, or the scenes become much better. I fully grasp the patterns between the character development, the progression, and the narrative flow, so that they all intersect at a really resonant time. Or potentially, the upstairs could collapse, like 300 hammers that the murderer upstairs has been storing for the entire year comes down on my head in quick succession. My skull cage in the right angle, so I don't die. But now, like, I'm just mentally damaged enough that I can still write, but everything about writing has been lost to me. So, I've gone from great writer to not a writer at all. And then the next week I get my skin taken from me because, like, I'm not producing enough. So, these things happen, and you got to keep it in mind.
Yes, regularly. This is why I moved into an apartment that is underneath a roof. There's no hammer murderers above me.
Yeah. Well, that's wise thinking.
That's why what? That's what I think.
That's wise thinking.
Hmm?
I said that's good thinking. You're prepared.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. I'm looking forward to how you edit this war. I'm looking forward to it. Just poke me when you're done with it. Cool. Because I wanted to ask you about this writing, this process of getting better anyway, right?
Yes.
So my question...
Yes, so you continue. That's what I mean.
The question I wanted to ask you in that regard was, how long have you been writing? Because, I mean, I'm not going to, toot your horn too hard, but your writing is really, really good.
So I'd say on and off, I've been going about it for, by this point, it's like 5 to 6 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
But like for the first, I'd say maybe like, I don't know, 5.5, it was kind of just whatever. I didn't consider myself a very serious writer. Remember when I told you I wrote crack fics, I literally mean like it was it's a little bit less than a shitpost. That's what it was.
You like Chuck Tingle, kind of like that kind of stuff?
Yes, but like not even, there wasn't even that much care about the prose or characters or anything. It's just, hey, look at this. This is a dumb story, isn't it? And it's like, isn't that funny? And for a while, it's 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 like the 4chan tier stuff without all the racism. Without all the racism, I must really, I cannot, it wasn't me, and I didn't do it. That's my official statement.
Great. Says the guy with a Pepe.
I mean, now come on. This is Frogman the Barbarian. Totally different.
Frogman the Barbarian. Yes. Also, by the way, Pepe the Frog is not a hate symbol, because if you think that it should be, and that the Nazis have stolen it, then they have won, and I will not let them win. Anyway,
I know. So, you know what? Actually, I'm going to carry off that point. Look, how much more are we going to give away? We gave away our frogs, or not? We gave away the OK. We gave away milk, and all the fashion and the night stuff are with the dragon.
Hoodies.
What do we have left? Left? I'm not
rainbow flag.
You stay away from my frog.
Rainbow flags. We should try go on 4chan and start. Use the AI we just talked about, the propaganda AI. And we should start the Nazis take over the rainbow flag.
This is going to turn into another Tumblr incident. Are you aware of the Tumblr invasion?
Which one of them?
Exactly. This can only end in tears for a lot of people who aren't us.
Yes. Maybe laughter, but yeah. Also, war. This goes out like this. This guy brings out the worst in me, please. No, pretty cool. Huh. No, because like you were saying that, you've been writing for like 5 years or something, but you've been doing this. Either you were writing this with way more intent than you let on, or you've been, well, I mean, how long have you been writing GodClads now? 2 years?
Or about a little bit over a year.
A little over a year, yeah. And I mean, like your prose and the way you kind of like construct everything and so on and so forth is absolutely stellar for just 1 year of serious writing. Did you have any sort of, I mean, obviously you read a lot, that helps. But
Yes.
did you have any sort of training or anything?
Not really. Like my training is for probably most of university and my education. Like the writing was probably one of my strongest suits. Actually, I'll mention something interesting about this. If you
Mhm.
ask me about specific grammar rules, I don't know them. I just know how they work. You
Yeah.
want to know why? Because they never taught us the grammar rules. They just made us do them. The person
Yeah.
who taught us grammar couldn't speak English that well. And so we just figured it out. So there's a bunch of tricks I probably know, but I can't name them. I don't have the theory. I just have to practice.
It's less than the grammar. Let me see if I can actually find the quote that I recently looked at. Because Lorna wrote you a really really good review like a year ago on
Yes.
Reddit.
Very nice of her.
Yeah, it was a really good one. I can't even fucking read this because it's too harrowing for me. GodClads is a very harrowing book, but
It's a hopeful book. I mean, it's hopeful for one person in particular.
it's literally about destroying paradise. But yeah,
Well,
let's go on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, what is paradise really? Philosophically speaking, if I am happy as things are falling apart, isn't it kind of like an inverse, like those who walk into Omelas and set it on fire and free all the kids and make the kids cannibals and eat their parents? You see the metaphor?
Yes, no, but yes. Do you know what this reminds me of? Like, I haven't thought about this for the longest time, but there was this online comic about a bunny reaper called PHOLF. Yeah, I mean, let me see what it was. Man. Oh yeah, Jack. Exactly. Man, that was harrowing as fuck. I read it like when I was 18, 17, 18, something like that. It's PHOLF.com. It's called Jack. And it's
PHOL.com.
yeah. And this is like a weird furry version of the afterlife. Wait, what?
Reminds me of reminds me of something from Newgrounds back in the day.
Yeah.
I heard a cat.
Legal proceedings 9 years ago. Blah blah blah. Oh my god, like this is old school furry drama. Holy shit. I don't even know if I have time.
My knowledge of the furry dramas is limited. That was a wild time on the internet.
Man, it was amazingly all time. Okay, I got it. There's a new comic. Oh man, oh man. I know when we read this again, like I'm tripping right now. But this is this Jack comic reminds me a lot of like what we're talking about right now, because it deals with a lot of existentialism and what's paradise for you and might not be something for all the others. So there's this idea that everyone gets a personal paradise.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this one small arc where they go through different paradises, and one of them is like this lady's paradise, and it's like all dark alleys full of like killers and rapists. And wherever you go, you might just get like a knife in the gut and like get gutted. It's very bloody, gory comic. And so one of the angels asked this person who like runs this place, who's like super scared and like hiding in her apartment, like, why did you build this paradise? And she goes, well, it's for the guy that I love, who's a rapist and a murderer. And if he comes here, then I want him to be able to hang out with all of his friends and do all the things that he likes to do without actually hurting anyone real. And the angel asked, but why do you think that if he comes to paradise, don't you think that he's going to change? And the lady, like, this is a close-up picture of this lady's face, and she's like re-crying in like this really impressively drawn way. And she says, well, I fucking hope so. Or like, I can only hope so, something like that. Right. And this reminded me a lot of what of your idea about like paradise, right? Which of the 8 groups is going to rule, because their paradise might not be yours. And that's very cool. Do you want to talk about a bit more about how that came to be?
Effectively, it's this, right? I basically just hypercharged the world order. That's it. It's at once an amplification, but also simplification in some regards. Right now, the big game that's being played is by a lot more than just 8 groups. But there are, very big blocks. And effectively, each of the 8 blocks, there are they're their own cultures, but they're also survivors, they're remnants, and they're as much system builders as they are system slaves, so to speak. The structure that they created is now resting on them too. And so, well, if you don't want to play, someone's going to put you under the wheels. So they have to play. And in a weird way, yes, they, like, as with all cyberpunk, your personal autonomy might allow you to be saved. But the world is damned. Until now. Until our very authoritarian, humanitarian friend comes and tries to change things.
And yet you say that like your book is about hope, and I'm not meaning like to rile on this, but I would like to explain, like for you to explain.
So I'm half joking when I say, yeah, like, when I come into your house and I set your house on fire and eat everyone and gain all the XP, that's hope. That's hope for me. It's not hope for you, but like, honestly, it's kind of true. Like, think of it this way. It's this. Right now, you succeeding sometimes takes up a slot someone else can't. It's not usually that severe. Potentially, you maybe winning the lottery means someone else doesn't win, or you going to university means someone else can't go. Maybe they're very close to you, but you had better hygiene that day. You didn't smell bad, or you had special qualities that they didn't, so to speak, the intangibles. But in a world where it's already very desperate, what's going to happen? Well, I don't think you're going to be too much different from us. We have a pretty consistent set of behavioral patterns you can observe in humans. And, well, if you look at people, there's a lot of, espousing about, rationality, humans are thinking creatures. I'm like, no, we're post-thinking creatures. We do things and we feel things usually, and then we justify them.
Yeah. So it's generally like almost like a societally enforced scarcity mindset.
Yes. But also it's kind of like, even with all that power, even with their ability to basically twist and reweave reality, well, they're still going to be fighting, because sectarian conflicts don't go away because why? Magic? No. It's just going to make it worse.
No, absolutely. Like, like more power to everyone just means everyone has more chances to ruin things. My favorite example of this is spray paint. Great, we have spray paint now. It doesn't take like 3 days to paint a house. It takes like 1 day, but it takes like 15 seconds to ruin the paint by spraying some sort of propaganda on it, right? So more power means just more destructive capabilities at the same time as also progressive capabilities.
Yes. And also, it's always easier to break a pattern than it is to rebuild it.
Yes, very true.
Well, at least current paradigms. I don't know how to build a house, but if you give me the tools, I can drop one.
Yeah. Now everyone knows that, right? Just press a button, and boom goes the dynamite.
Yes.
Right? It's really not that hard. Like, safety measures are very important though with TNT. But that being said, I mean, I personally think that, especially in this writing environment or writing community that we have, that the idea of the rising tide raising all ships is still, kind of prevalent, if the right thing is done after the fact. So yes, this is a stupid example because no one does this, but if I win the lottery, I might give to charity or might not, right? Depends on how I feel that day, right? Am I feeling religious? Am I feeling giving, caring? Did someone smile at me in the morning? So all these kind of things. And if I get like vast cosmic powers, there's always the question, hey, do I want to go the easy way and become a villain and just satisfy my own basic urges? Or do I want to do something that, at least in some sort of way, is utilitarian in that it maximizes the amount of good in the world? But even then, you have to punish the villain, and that's shit for them. So,
Yes. That, I think there's a lot of implication that power, we haven't interacted with. Power is not only an enabler, or power reveals, or like, those are all pithy statements. But it's like, power is also inconsistent, right? Like it might make you more human in some situations, but more callous in others. If you've always been particularly, indifferent about human life, you're probably going to kill a lot more people. You're already U-shaped. This is just going to magnify you. But also, if that expands your sensory input, and you're always bothered by how poorly someone treats animals, and you can hear across the world, and you hear every second of every day of everything some interesting people do to animals. Imagine what follows. Can you call it, I don't know, a justified genocide? It's hard to say. It gets really dicey.
No, I mean, like, obviously you can't, because genocide can never be justified, but because it's a summary statement, and
where you get into the weird nitty gritty of this, though, it's like when you're like sinking deeper and deeper into the character's perspective, it gets more and more warped. If we're going to be entirely honest, right, and like the act of genocide, the act of killing is pretty. Most people cannot conceptualize how severe it is. It is, it's not something you come back from basically normally.
Yeah, because it's very, very traumatizing. It completely destroys your own worldview of yourself and also about the possibilities, right? I got into a car accident once. I didn't kill anyone. Someone crashed into me. And I still remember that for the next couple of weeks, I would always twitch when something came in from the left side, because suddenly, like, life-ending danger was possible, right? And if you, and I mean, like, I can only imagine, I've never killed anyone, and I don't hope I will never will or will have to. But I mean, if you are at this point where you realize that everything I told you in school, that you're special and that you can do everything you want, is tragically and horrifically true, right? There is no rule that stops you from doing all these things. That is,
but more importantly, there's no governing power that can make what you're saying false. And how you justify it gets really dicey, because at the end of the day, everything is insured by who holds the sword. And if you're the one holding the sword, and you're your own boss, well, there's a number of things you can get away with, and it depends on how can you survive getting away with yourself, basically.
That being said, though, humanity wouldn't have survived for this long if humans like killing. It's really interesting. I mean, if people can get away with it, they don't even want to kill animals. They want to eat animals, but they don't want to kill them.
Yes.
Right? So this is a very, very interesting concept.
We have the capability of aggression, but we come up with mythology to deal with killing and death.
Yeah.
I'm just agreeing.
What's this? Another ad? Yeah, because I'm not Zogarth and I really need money. Joke aside, if you're enjoying this podcast, check out Patreon. Like, subscribe, you know the drill. Speaking of Patreon, by the way, there is at least half an hour of content for every hour of podcast you're listening to. For Raven's Dagger, for example, we have 2 hours of bonus content that you can enjoy. All right, I'll see you there, and enjoy the show.
Man, this got gruesome. And I can say I didn't anticipate it. But that being said, I think we should maybe move on to the next question. And that's, what would be one thing you would go back to and change in your earlier work or works if you had
probably
the time?
Characters a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I what do you call it? I like having characters drive the story.
Yes.
I think a lot of things, and a lot of I don't like thinking rails, but like if you have a very clear concept of character design and who they are, and if it's complex and nuanced enough, they will drive themselves. You do not need to like puppet them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think that's, if I was going to go serious and do like a lot of updating from my previous work, it's once again going to be, let's integrate the characters and build them some more.
Yeah. Okay. Any specific tips you would give there?
Effectively spend more time like watching people, like generally like try to put together a person in your mind. Like, like some there are, I'm going to potentially say some things that people don't like. I hate the character charts. I hate putting like, oh, he has this trait and this trait. Yeah. And, like here's what he believes. Like, no, I genuinely I don't like putting it on paper, because I want to consider what at what kind of moment is there an inconsistency? Like he's brave, up until the condition where these conditions are met, because this in his past, or this is, it's everything pressing on everything. Effectively, I think that makes at least the general design feel lived in.
Did you read any books on writing?
I think I read Elements of Style. I read Stephen King's on writing, and I don't remember much of that.
He doesn't either, so it's fine.
Yeah. Some of it's code passed over to my system from the past.
No, because I'm asking because there's a guy I respect a lot. His name is David Corbett, and he wrote a book called The Art of Character, where he describes basically what you described. And I think he quotes Hemingway. I don't know. And he says that a character will always just be a caricature. What you should aim for is write breathing, living people that just happen to like live in your story. Yeah. And I feel as though many people use the charts wrong. They use the charts as in like, oh, now I need a motivation and I'm going to put in whatever I think. That will never work, because your characters ideally have a life of their own, and they will not be able to fit in that box that you put for them. The one thing that I have found for writing characters is that's better than anything I've ever done is think about a character in your head like a very nebulous concept, and then put them in scenes, even in scenes that no one will ever read. I've written like half a book for Torchbearer characters that no one will ever read because they're all like nonsensical, don't make any sense. But what you really want is to find out what's your main character's main want and your main need. So far, so easy. But then also find out their wound, right? So what is the one thing that really hurt them, that makes them act in a certain way with a certain pathological maneuver whenever their want or need is denied? So, for example, if you have a serial adulterer or whatever, right? Why do they sleep around? And the question is like, oh, hey, maybe it's as easy as he got rejected in high school by this one girl that he really liked or whatever, and now he's trying to fill that void with overcompensation. Reading psychology and understanding human psychology is paramount to writing good characters, because if you don't understand yourself, you can't understand your characters. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah. I think another thing, though, is that It's going to sound. I don't mean to make this sound insulting. I mean it to be very honest. I think in some genres you can get away with really bad characters, and it's probably even better than writing good characters.
Yeah.
And I don't. Yeah, it's not meant to be insulting. I mean, like if your audience is in it for the books to project themselves on someone special, and all the other characters are built to be, like they're character facing. They're not built to interface with the world. The world doesn't matter. It's how they deal with the protagonist. So we've seen this many times. There's like, unfortunate man gets hit by a meat-seeking truck, and he responds, and he comes back into the same city that we've seen many times. There's a river running between it. There's walls outside. There's some kind of weird pig monster. That's the first thing he kills. And there's questionable content about it. But let's not get into that. Anyway, yeah. But like everyone, despite how the way the world is built, everyone is built to interface with, funny sword man.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's be honest about what you're writing. That's probably another thing I'll tell myself.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what's the promise you give to your reader? Also, I wouldn't say like it's necessarily a bad character. Not that you were saying this, but I think we should maybe be saying like flat character.
Augmented, yeah.
Corbett in the book calls them traveling angels. They also exist in movies. Characters who don't go through any arc. They come in at the beginning, they fix a problem, and then they go away. But the trick of keeping people interested in the story in this case is the emotional journey of the other characters. Because every good story has to have some sort of emotional journey. It's true for Naruto, One Piece, Dragon Ball Z, everything. Even though I'm struggling really hard to... Actually, no. Dragon Ball Z is really easy too. Son Goku never changes, except for when he grows up from like an idealistic kid to, this muscular dude.
Yeah.
But Vegeta has a redemption arc. Piccolo is a god who faces doubt. Like, it's right.
Yeah. And it's pretty simple. Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's like it's the Atticus Finch build. To kill a mockingbird. Basically, the dad is the dad. You learn things about him, but he doesn't change.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because you only have so much, space in the book, even if you're writing lit RPG or progression fantasy or web series.
I laugh at that. There's no end to the space. More words.
More words. Do you think do you think that you can or will keep GodClads going on forever, or do you have a goal in mind?
I have a goal in mind. Yeah, this thing is not going to run on forever. It's like, maybe it'll hit a few million words, but considering the current pace I'm keeping, it has an ending in mind. I have a clear, here's the end of the series concept. I might revisit the setting for other characters or other things after I'm done with it. But yeah, that's generally there's a plan.
Yeah, that's very good. Awesome. Then I think we should move on to the next question. What's one book that you love, and why is it awesome?
One book that I love. Let me think here. I'm thinking about if I'm going to do something I can talk about a recent book or a book I read a while ago. You know
Anything
what? Yeah, let's do. I think Shadow of a Torturer by Gene Wolfe. Gene Wolfe, very good. It is effectively the guy is a very, 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 very good at building his narratives. He's managing to actually assemble unreliable narration in very cool ways, and you're seeing his lens of a very kind of, I almost say kind of a Christian style character, but in a really twisted world, and how he faces the setting and the nebulousness of his current reality. It's magic, but not really. It's technology, but he can't comprehend it anymore. It's very much in the vein of Jack Vance's Dying Earth kind of stuff. It's really, it's not something I've seen that's been quite as well done ever again.
Okay.
So, cool. For his Shadow of the Torturer stuff, his, I think people should just even if you're not interested in the content, you should read his writing just for how he's good at the craft alone.
Gene Wolfe, Shadow of the Torturer. I'm looking it up. Oh, it's Earth. Awesome. Very interesting. All right. Cool. Well, thank you for the recommendation. Go check it out over Christmas.
Yes. Hopefully you like it.
Oh yeah, hopefully. I got Harrow still I need to read, and there's many lit RPGs I also promised I would read, and I also heard that there's going to be a new All the Skills soon. So
this time Arthur learns how to this time I'm looking forward to how Arthur learns how to mix some biological components. It's time for new warfare.
Absolutely. I mean, why worship dragons when you can literally craft one?
Yes. Plague dragon. Yeah.
Plague.
Actually, you know what?
Minor card. Plague control.
Yeah, like I keep thinking, like if you strip all the flesh from a bunch of people and reassemble their bones from the inside, right? And you build like a human meat dragon, and it looks like a dragon. If it's still a dragon.
I mean, according to the Monoct loop, yes. Well, no, it's a worm.
I should have thought about that.
Yes. I mean, like it's right at the beginning. It's right there.
Yes.
Because that's literally what happens.
I mean, it's a cool concept. It's just, like once again, what we're talking about. Well, technically, what is a dragon?
Yeah. But I think we could be dragging that question along for a long time. Anyway, because this podcast has now reached its allotted 1 hour and has already gone a little bit over, I would like to ask you for shout-outs.
Of course. There is an author I'd like to shout out. Actually, quite a few. There's the new Virtuous Son book that's coming out. Virtuous Son, very interesting. It's probably one of the few Shinkais I kind of enjoy. I'll be honest, I don't like most of them. Yeah, like a lot of them are like I like it to I see them as like they're degenerations of Xing Yung's old work. And I don't want to sound insulting, but it's just like after you read some of like his the concepts behind his old work, and you're looking at the new one literally like, he's like, okay, this is kind of a failure. This is what happens when the world gets invaded and everything falls apart. And now it's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to learn the tiger technique. I'm going to blow up this realm. I'm going to move on. It cycles on from that. I'm like, yeah, okay. I won't claim to be like, a governing authority, but like, I wanted to see something more, but Virtuous Sons, very cool. Gets into the concept of like what actually cultivating virtue means, and actually focuses much more on the characters, how they interact with each other. Settings also different, Greek instead of very culturally Chinese. So yeah, if you're interested in that. Connected to that, however, there is another book, a lesser known book that I'd like to recommend. I must get this name right. There is a book called Road of the Rottweiler. It is about the Rottweiler. It's a type of dog.
Yes.
And it's about someone who is using a dog to cultivate. It's a Rottweiler puppy cultivation method. Have you ever seen a dog hit someone and they explode? Not the dog, the person.
No. No.
So yeah, you should think, maybe consider looking at Road of the Rottweiler. It's interesting. You won't find anything like it anywhere else.
By the author known as Lack of Pooch Line.
Yes.
This is a thing that exists.
I mean, they also have, like, if you're more interested in let me see here. If you're more interested in isekai, he has a character that was murdered by his dog and goes into a fantasy world with his dog to destroy people alongside his dog.
I think you're overselling this. It was already sold. You're fine. No, like this is really, really interesting. So far it's got 4.84 stars rated. So go ahead, and it's got like
cool.
25 ratings too. So it's not that bad. Go ahead, go and read the story, and maybe leave him a nice comment or something. That could be kind of cool. Does seem like a fun ride. All right, awesome. Mammal. This is the end of the main podcast, and we are going to have more fun in the bonus material, and where we're going to talk more about your Death March, writing horror for Royal Road. I'm really interested in that still. I want to talk about why your book hits so well and why other horror books don't, and Hope Punk and how to fuel things with orphans, and yeah.
Nice.
Oh yeah, of course. Your philosophy for writing GodClads. That's very interesting too.
Yeah.
Any last words?
Yes. Keep your meat to yourself. Defend yourself at all times. And also, keep in mind that success is generated from strain, but not stress. There's a difference. Don't break yourself.
Yeah, very much do that. All jokes aside. Thank you, everyone, for coming and listening to the Crit RPG podcast, Acid Edition. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Next week is going to be the special episode for Christmas. And I am 100% sure you're going to love the guest I have there. If there's anything else that you're interested in, you will probably find it in my wonderful little icon here. There's some sort of tab that you can press. Go check it out. I got way more guests that you can listen to, and please do leave a follow. It helps me a lot. Also, like and commenting, everything like that really helps because it allows me to do more of the stuff. With that being said, I will be back next year after Christmas. I will be taking January off. And at the end of January, so beginning of February, I will be starting to post new stuff again. Thank you again very much for being here, Mammal. And thank you for staying for the bonus stuff. We're going to talk for another hour. Let's go.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.